your personal relations and business. That has to be kept separately in terms of documentation. But the moment things go bad, it is more likely to go bad between relations and friends rather than two completely unconnected people doing business. You have to be more careful.
Are there any websites which are helpful for the startups in terms of legal things?
Is an amazing website. You will get a lot of information as to what startups would need in terms of documentation, schemes available from the governments.
Many of the SMEs we are hiring freshers. We teach him everything. After 1.5 years or 2 years, our competitor is pulling that candidate, and whatever the trade secret he knows, it is went to our competitor without any legal protection for us.
You can't restrict a person from leaving. It's very difficult to prove that this was my trade secret. Now what you can do is,
what are the key points we have to check so that our account should not get hacked?
We see a lot of ransomware attacks happening on businesses. The second threat is the business email compromise fraud.
How this data is getting leaked?
So,
any tip or any one-liner for the SMEs?
There are no shortcuts and there are no free meals. The moment you take a shortcut and you think you are getting something for free, there is a much higher price that you are going to pay later.
Welcome everyone. Today we have a guest who is a law expert and her specialization is in cyber law. So I welcome एडवोकेट वैशाली भागवत. आगे जाने से पहले आप इस चैनल को लाइक, शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए सो दैट हम लोग आपके पास और कई सारे वीडियोस और कई सारे एक्सपर्ट के साथ आते रहेंगे. उसका नोटिफिकेशन आपको आता रहेगा. और उसके साथ हमारे वीडियोस पे कमेंट भी कीजिए. आपको क्या अच्छा लगा, आपको क्या और चाहिए, एंड और कोई गेस्ट रिकमेंडेशन रहेगा तो वो भी दीजिए सो दैट वी विल ट्राई टू ब्रिंग द गेस्ट और वी विल ट्राई टू ऐड द सब्जेक्ट in our next podcast. So welcome Vaishali ma'am. We will start with your personal journey. Why you chose your cyber security in your law field?
So first, thank you Vishwesh for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to have this conversation with you. I never planned honestly to become a cyber lawyer. It was a journey, and I first enrolled for my bachelor's degree in computer science. Okay. I finished that. I worked in IT for several years. Then I took a career break. I think it happens to most of us women. We need to take that break to raise our family, which I did. And then I actually had panicked that the world is moving too fast. IT was moving too fast at that time, and I may not be able to join the IT space again. Though I had taken a break after I was doing adequately well in the IT space. It was those early years. Then I enrolled in a law college which was near my house. I said, okay, anyway I'm at home, let me utilize this time to get one more degree. Fortunately, my father, my grandfather, they're all lawyers, and so it was easy for me to join their firm. And though I was not a very happy lawyer when I joined the firm because the practice was primarily civil in nature, I was not used to that environment. Courts, dealing with clients. When I was working with computers, I really didn't have to talk to people, and I was happy about it. Then my father introduced me to the Singapore Electronic Transaction Act, which had come in about 1998. Okay. And he said, you study this. This is something you like, and this is the future. Tech is the future, and tech law is the future. Right. I think it was his vision that gave me this direction, that I could combine these two in a way very unique field. So I had computer science, and then I had law as a qualification, and I could combine these two to do what I'm doing right now and practice in technology law, okay, which now I thoroughly enjoy. So I think a lesson here is that guidance was very important. Though right, in a way I was lost with 2 degrees and an unhappy career. But when you get the right mentor, you get the right guidance. I think somebody to show you that path and your ability to listen and then act on it. I think all that worked for me.
Okay, basically our podcast views are for SMEs. Why we are shooting is for 50 years we have the legacy in plastic industry. Mm-hmm. And to start to start with, what we can share with the customers is the knowledge for the industry. So while as a legal aspect, many SMEs are lacking many things in many ways, and so they are losing money on many things. So we want one legal expert, as you are also a lawyer, plus you have expertise in cyber law. So in this scenario, we will start first with the basic problems of SMEs.
Right.
Like we are basically, many companies are on the rental basis. So what kind of rental, in many rent agreements or something, there are flaws. So to start a company or to hire, to do a partnership, what kind of precautions one person has to make, so that the it should run hassle free for a longer period?
I think Vishwesh is a very good question, because when you are starting a business, I think the confusion is about what sort of a legal entity you would is best suitable for one's business. For example, there are many types of legal entities, or there are different types of governance structures. So let's say a proprietorship firm, or a limited liability partnership, or a partnership firm registered under the Partnership Act, or a partnership firm unregistered. I mean, we'll come to that also, that what are the consequences of an unregistered partnership, or a company incorporated under the Companies Act. You could have a Section 8 company if you are in the social enterprise. So first, to identify what is best suitable for you.
Okay.
So in terms of taxation, in terms of compliances, in terms of licenses, that is something that the business needs to figure out, what is the best fit. Once you see, and of course you will need expert help for that.
In basic, everyone does a registration, take out the GST registration,
Right.
because it is mandatory for a B2B business.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right.
So in while forming a company, we need one place. Like many people are registering on their residential addresses, and then taking one office, or registering, or doing a partnership with somebody. Even within friends, I have seen many cases where friends have aparted, then they have some differences due to that non-written MOUs or something. So what kind of procedure they have to follow, even in private limited or partnership firm?
I think one thing I would like to say here right in the beginning is you should never combine your personal relations and business. That has to be kept separately in terms of documentation. I mean, you can do business with friends, but when you do business, the business has certain requirements in terms of paperwork, compliances. So that there is no shortcut to that. Just because he or she is your friend or a relative, that doesn't mean that the paperwork need not be done.
Right.
Because as long as you are in a good relationship, everything is working well. But the moment things go bad, and it is more likely to go bad between relations and friends rather than two completely unconnected people doing business, you have to be more careful. I mean, I'll give you an example. When people come to us, say, you're buying property from a relative. And generally, people will come to us and say, Vaishali, we are buying this flat. ये मेरे nephew का ही है, तो ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं, आप थोड़ा ही देख लो. तो आई टेल देम दैट ऐसे थोड़ा ही देख लो, ऐसे कुछ नहीं होता. अगर आपको ट्रस्ट है ना नेव्यू पे, तो आप मुझे दिखाइए ही मत. तो सिर्फ ट्रस्ट पे आप वो ट्रांजैक्शन कीजिए. अगर लॉयर को दिखाना है, मतलब आपको कुछ ना कुछ करना है, कुछ अच्छी तरह करना है, देन द लॉयर हैज़ टू सी. थोड़ा देखिए मतलब थोड़ी फी लीजिए. Is actually what they're trying to tell me, लेकिन पूरा देखिए. So there are no shortcuts to this. So once, as you said, MOU करते हैं लोग. I don't think MOU is the right way of starting a business. MOU is something you can do pre-business.
Okay.
But once you get into a formal relationship,
Yeah.
and you decide, you decide what kind of a structure you want: proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnership. The moment you arrive at that decision, all paperwork, paper compliances have to be made.
Right.
The right agreements, the right registrations, the right permissions. Registration under the Shops and Establishments Act. If for a particular business you need to take certain licenses. Now, you also brought up the topic that people then take some place on rent, and then what is to be done, or they do the business from their homes. So now, if you're taking place on rent, it is very important that the rent agreement happens on the name of the entity and
Okay.
not in your personal name. And if that is going to happen, if you are going to use your personal space for office space, again there has to be a proper documentation that as a person you have rented out in your personal capacity, you have rented out that place to the business with a proper rent agreement with due
Okay.
registration, because it is not a one person business, right? You
Right.
have so many other people in your team. So it is always good to have all the paperwork in place, so that headache is, so you can actually concentrate on doing good business rather than later on worrying about legal complexities.
Complex.
I mean, we love it as lawyers. We hope that you have more and more legal complexities, but the best way of not going to a lawyer is do all this background and work and homework right in the beginning.
Okay. So if we want to make a checklist, what 5 points will be there?
Okay. So first and foremost, as I said, governance structure, what kind of business you want. Then the allied registrations and permissions for that business.
One thing.
For example, if you're a private limited company, then your registration with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, the ROC, all those compliances. If you're a partnership firm, then registration of the partnership deed. Also, having an understanding of what the partnership deed says. Is it at will? Or what is the succession plan in the partnership?
Oh.
What is the shares? What is the capital every partner is bringing in? What is a sleeping partner? What is an active partner? Have an understanding of what the partnership is. So either hire an expert to do that, or you can study on your own. At least open the Partnership Act and see what it really means. So first, identify what form of an entity you want. Then look at the laws around that entity.
Okay.
So if it's a private limited company, certain set of laws. It's a partnership, certain set of laws. Understand what those laws means and what are the compliances under that law.
Okay.
Now, the second most important thing is labor law compliance and the employment related compliance.
Okay.
So have all the appointment letters in place, have an employee policy or an employee handbook in place, labor law compliances which are applicable to you, some basic compliances like PF, ESI, that's something you can't wish away, maternity benefit, POSH. All those compliances become...
But at the start of company, even I think PF is applicable after 10 employees something.
Yeah. So assuming that you reach that, and before you reach 10, that planning has to start. Because if you're going to do sizable business, 10 is then a very small number. Yeah. Otherwise, below 10, you will be running that business more like a proprietor.
Right.
So, but if you're getting into a business scenario where you are going to have a team, then preparation for that is important.
Right. Are there any websites which are helpful for the startups or newcomers where we can get some ready-made formats in terms of legal things?
So Startup India is an amazing website. You will get a lot of information as to what startups would need in terms of documentation, schemes available from the governments. That it's a very important resource. Another resource is the websites that are offered by different chambers of commerce. Even they will have a lot of information about. They will also have a help desk. So small businesses can definitely reach out. It's sometimes at a very nominal fee or sometimes even free of cost. So businesses should avail of these services. Even there are websites of law firms which will give a lot of free information which is available in terms of their blogs or the articles that they write, certain guidelines which are recent and they may be put up on their website. So keeping, being alert and vigilant and looking for information. I think it's important to look for reliable resources. ChatGPT results may not be the best resources to rely on, but ChatGPT or any other generative AI model will give you a result, and it will give you a source from where that information has been fetched. So that is very important to understand whether that is a reliable and a right information. I'm particularly mentioning generative AI resources because now I see if people are getting into a habit of using that instead of a search engine.
Right.
But people forget that AI results may be completely wrong.
Right.
Or completely made up. So we say AI hallucinates, which means the results can be completely untrue. They appear to be very true. So I think that's a very important thing people need to remember.
Have you noticed some kind of trends like SMEs are ignoring some important legal aspects while starting or in process?
Okay, so I think earlier I said what are the important laws that one needs to look at once you start business, along with the legislation that one needs to be mindful of. I think let me talk about 3 or 4 points small businesses need to look at. Documentation in terms of the company infrastructure itself, then documentation relating to employees. So people tend to do a lot of shortcuts here. They'll say templates are available, or I have borrowed these contracts from my friend, he's also in a similar business, so I will use the same documents. Do use that, nothing wrong in it, but apply your mind. Go through the document, just don't do a copy paste. Is that suitable for your business? What are the clauses in the employment agreement that are important for your business? For example, you are doing business in which the IP, it's where you are dealing with highly sensitive information, or your product is very niche and that IP or that trade secret is very important, or non-disclosure agreement becomes very important so that the employees sign it, or a non-compete or a non-solicitation clause in the employment agreement, and how you're going to draft it, because all non-compete clauses are not enforceable in a court of law. So documentation and understanding of the Contract Act becomes important. Also, if there are any specific regulatory compliance that you need to be aware of, certain licenses, if you're in the food industry, then if you're in a pharma industry, then certain licenses, because a regulator is looking at you. So a regulatory and a statutory compliance becomes very important. And again, the business may need a bit of expert help. In terms of IT infrastructure, because most of the things now will be on the computer online. So investing and keeping aside a certain budget for security is almost mandatory now. And very recently, in fact, on the 1st of September, Certain released a notification or a guideline for all MSMEs to have a certain cybersecurity posture. It talks about basic 15 cybersecurity controls all MSMEs must have. And an annual audit that will be done by Certain, which is a very recent development, because even Certain is now trying to ensure that businesses don't suffer from data loss, data leaks, IP thefts, etc.
Right.
So these are, you can't wish away these, this is something that you need to be very mindful right in the beginning.
Now we will come to your expertise about cybersecurity. So now in cybersecurity, many banks have many different types of concepts of their login and payment types. Like we have two banks. One bank is offering only login into the account, and while payment only OTP is needed, while second bank is having that OTP will be generated, but we have to create payment request from another ID and again approve it from second ID. So that kind of mandatory requirement from another bank. In many cases, what are the key points we have to check before, so that our account should not get hacked or should not get leaked, our password or OTPs?
So let me answer this in a more broader way. So if I have to look at the kind of threats businesses have or technology threats that businesses have, I'll give you some examples. So we see a lot of ransomware attacks happening on businesses where there is some phishing email, then somebody clicks on that email, some malware gets downloaded on the system, and the entire data is encrypted. So either you pay ransom and get back the data, or you just restore it from your backup, and so it's a big headache, right? The second threat is the business email compromise fraud, where it's in a typical scenario, a finance officer in the company will get an email looking like it's come from his boss or managing director asking him to transfer funds to some hacker's account. And we see that financial officers or people within the organization get fooled by these kind of emails, and the amount does land up into the hacker's account. The third is where you are supplying a material somewhere, and the person says that the time has come for the party to make a payment, and the party says, now don't make a payment in my earlier account, make a payment in some other account, which is also a phishing email. And we've seen businesses making transfers of large amounts of money into the hacker's account, and then the customer is saying that the customer making these payments and not receiving the goods.
How this data is getting leaked
to
that company?
Okay, so this is what is happening. Now what is happening in the background? The business's systems, IT systems are compromised in some manner. There is some malware sitting on the system which is reading all the data and giving that data to the hacker, and the hacker is collecting the data over a long period of time, and then the hacker will decide when to strike or when to initiate this attack, use all that information that he has gathered to perform a very targeted attack, so that you don't suspect it's an outsider attack. You feel it's part of the business and you go ahead and do that transaction. So having IT security in place is now the key factor. So if you're using antivirus, using softwares which are licensed, having a very strict password or an access management policy, because all our passwords are also sometimes very porous, or sometimes that can be easily guessed. Having two-factor authentication everywhere, where when I say two-factor, there are two ways in which you can log in, not just by one way. These are some very basic cybersecurity hygiene principles that one needs to follow. Constantly be vigilant about where the data is going, monitoring all the emails, being aware of how the entire network is. Also, sometimes the threats can be through your third party, connecting either to your network or supplying IT services to the company. So also it is very important to be vigilant about which third parties you are engaging with.
Okay. So the data leak can be, so we have to use first license versions and antivirus is the most.
License version, antivirus, firewalls.
Okay.
Have even your router security, your Wi-Fi security, your endpoint security. If you are going to access emails on your mobile, then your mobile security. If you have your banking app, company banking app on your mobile, then again mobile security. So look at all that infrastructure and secure it. That has to be the first step. You can no longer afford to do business from unsecured devices. Somebody has given you something, your vendor has given you some IT and software, and you start using it. To be vigilant about all the cybersecurity controls and ensure that they are set up in a secure manner, including patch management.
Okay. And today we are receiving many SMS that this is from government, that please click on the link to check the malware in your phone or something. are these the real messages or these are the fake messages? But the name and there is no number, but there is a name. Now the messages are also modified, not that automated messages.
Okay, let
It's
me tell you one thing.
PS or something is coming.
So let me try and answer this again in another way. So let me say that our government is not very vigilant and proactive, that it is on its own reaching out to its citizens and giving them advice to protect.
Okay.
They are definitely, for example, I said certain came out with a guideline asking businesses to deploy certain basic cybersecurity controls. But no government agency is going to send messages and links to be clicked on so that in IT infrastructure is secured. So all these links definitely are phishing links. The way you are getting calls from MSCB that if you don't make the payment right away, your electricity. But people are getting fooled by it because there is a certain sense of urgency that comes out in those messages and in those emails. So ignore them.
Just 2 days back, I have received about the Sanchar Sathi app.
Yes.
To download for reporting of
Yes. So it's a very good initiative by the Government of India. Sanchar Sathi app, one should download. And what Sanchar Sathi is doing is, if there is an attempted fraud from any particular phone number, you can report that number. So the fraud has not really happened, but you get a phishing attack or you get a phone call which seems suspicious, you can actually report that number on the Sanchar Sathi app, and the government will maintain a repository of all these suspicious callers so that there could be better investigation.
Okay. And will you be able to share any interesting case which you have faced in the online banking or any cyber security?
So we had one very interesting case of a very large educational institution where let's say the head of the finance manager got an email from the head of the institution saying that certain money is lying around in one of our accounts and we don't need it right away. So I have this investor and I've got this email from one investment advice company, and their recommendation is to invest this money in certain stocks and shares for a limited period of time. I want you to do that immediately. Since the boss was away, not operating from India, the finance officer believed him and made those transactions and sort of invested the money in those shares. Obviously, after a few months, when there was certain money crunch, and the finance manager tells the head saying that, but we've invested the money in those shares, so right now I don't have ready cash to buy this equipment or for whatever the money is required. And that is when the fraud was sort of, everybody came to know about the fraud, when the boss said, I never sent you an email like this. So there was a lot of interesting questions came up. One is the money had gone.
Right.
So who all are to blame? So we also held the bank responsible, saying that one, there has to be a maker and a checker. So once for large financial transactions in a large organization, I think even you mentioned it that some banks do offer that. So whether the bank ensured that the maker and the checker permissions had come to the bank or not, in this case it was not there. The second thing, we asked a question to the bank that an educational institution, when I open an account, you ask me what is the purpose of this account. It is for educational purpose, but you are allowing me to make a transaction from an account which has to be used only for educational purpose to buy shares. So this should have been a red flag even for the bank, and the bank could have disallowed those transactions. So we did claim the money from the bank, saying that this is also a negligence on part of the bank, and I had to recover money.
But so, bank agreed?
We did enter into a settlement with the bank, and the bank did agree to pay.
Oh.
Because large amounts, and there are so many people involved everyone had a role to play. Everyone, those connected with this transaction, each one had a role to play to be alert, including the bank.
Okay.
So we said, if you had shown your alertness, this money would not have gone.
So in even in small businesses, bank offers maker and checker
Yes, and you
services?
can insist on it.
Okay.
Because though that two level of authentication is very important when you
Okay.
are doing large volume transactions.
So from maker account, login
authorization.
ID, authorization is denied, and from authorization, maker is denied.
Yes.
Okay. So now every company is having their own pages or on social media, and there are many cases that social media is also hacked, and many other information is shared with the public.
You're right.
That hampers the company account. So how to save that, or how to protect that?
So social media or public presence on the internet is a double-edged sword. You can use it the right way, but there is also a risk associated with it. So let's take the example of Practo, where the doctors and patients all are there on the platform, and then you give a certain comment or a rating to that. So now you get both, right? You get good comments and you get bad comments. The question is, how do you handle it? Once something like this comes out in the public space regarding your business, how are you going to react to it? Because removing it is a big problem. It is not a very easy process unless it violates community guidelines or it is absolutely illegal. Defamatory content to be removed from the internet is not a very easy thing to do. It can be done, but it's a long process, and it also involves getting a court order, etc. So that posture needs to be defined. So your public persona policy also has to be in place right in the beginning, that how do you want to position yourself, what are the social media accounts you want to use. Do you want to be only on LinkedIn, or you also want to be on Facebook and other meta platforms? Who is going to manage it? What sort of answers you are going to give to your customers or your consumers when those questions are raised on a public forum is a strategy. It is not, today I feel like this, so let me respond like that, and tomorrow I want to ignore, so I want to ignore. There has to be a consistent strategy. You can do it on your own, or again hire somebody to do that for you, but leverage the power of social media in a manner that it helps the business. There are very less rules and regulations that will help you remove the content from the internet.
Okay.
Content removal is possible only when there is obscene, pornographic content or highly abusive content maligning somebody's character, or there is a violation of privacy. So those are very unique instances in which because as I said, it is a double-edged sword. So on one hand you have the freedom of speech and expression, and on the other hand you have regulation. So even the courts are very slow in touching the content that gets published on the net. So also training your employees to tell them what to write and what to not write on social media. Coming then to the websites that the companies have. So if you have an interactive website where people can make comments or chat with you in a chat box, there are certain rules and regulations that you should say that this is allowed and this is not allowed. So if you should be able to block a certain customer or a consumer who is maybe putting abusive language on the website. So monitoring the website also becomes very important.
If anybody is giving bad comments continuously on social media without a reason, can it be blocked, or I think,
as I said, it's difficult. So flooding with positive comments is a better way, that in the SEO algorithm the bad comments just go lower.
Right.
So that's a better way of dealing with it. Court orders are always not very easy.
Okay. Now about data leaks. So how we can protect the data leaks, and how the law is, we can use the law to help us if data is get leaked.
So when you say data leak, the question first that should come to anybody's mind is my data valuable? You need to be concerned about a data leak if your data is valuable. Now, valuable data is also of different types. One can be data which can be copyrighted. One form of data is a trade secret or confidential data, personal data. So first categorize what is the kind of data you have, what is the kind of data you would want to protect, and then how to protect it. And if then there is a leak, what should be done? So this is the life cycle. Once you identify that these are these 4 to 5 types of data that I in my business needs to protect, then each category of data has to be treated differently. So let's take the example of, say, trade secrets.
Trade secrets, right?
Trade secrets is something, is the soul of your company, because that is your IP. It's very valuable. It is not going to be disclosed in the public domain because it is not something that you're copywriting or getting a patent on. It is your trade secret. Now the question is, where is that trade secret going to be stored? It could be in the form of maybe databases. It could be in the form of designs, formulas, inventions, maybe some technical know-how that is stored somewhere. So wherever it is stored, that security of that IT infrastructure needs to be considered. So you can think of encryption, you can think of limiting access. So who all needs to have access to that trade secret? Not everybody in the company. 5 people, then give access only to those 5 people. Those 5 people also should have access, which is again 2-factor authenticated access and not just a casual access. After your IT infrastructure is all secured, have adequate, again, password policy. Again, see how the data is flowing, from which department it goes to which department, and how even in the life cycle it gets protected. There are many ways in which data can be leaked. One is bad configuration. If the IT system itself is not configured properly, there are data leaks that are going to happen because of external attack, hackers. Unlicensed software is another way in which data gets leaked, because it makes your system unsafe, it makes your system porous. So that is where the data leak can again happen.
Free softwares,
ransomware, free software. I mean, apps. There is no such thing as free. We all know that free is, they're eating into your data, that they're mining your data, and that is why it appears to be free. But the price you're paying, the business is paying, is through the data and the trade secret. And last but not the least, are there people themselves who are going to take the data from you.
Yeah.
So having the agreements in place, the non-disclosure agreements, work for hire. See, because the mindset of most of the employees, what I see, and they come to us also telling, no, but I only created it when I was in the company. I only prepared this. I gave this information to the company. It was my brainchild, my invention. So it is mine. So I walked away with it. But law doesn't look at it like that. If you are developing something for the company, it is a work for hire. It means owned by the company. So that culture needs to be built. It should be told to the employees that this is going to be the company's, and you will not have any separate right unless it's a joint invention, and then you can think of it differently and protecting IP accordingly.
No, this is about IT sector. In our SME manufacturing sector, what we have used to get used to know that if many of the SMEs, we are hiring freshers.
Mm-hmm.
So after some time, we are hiring a fresher, we are developing him, we teach him everything. After 1.5 years or 2 years, suddenly one of the newcomers or competitor is pulling that candidate to his factory, and he, whatever we have taught him, whatever the trade secret he knows, it is not written somewhere, but it is eventually got to know him by working with us
Is gone.
is
I understand
totally
what you're saying.
went to the our competitor without any legal protection for us. So in that case, how we can control that? I know we can't restrict a person to leave us. We can't restrict a person to ask. We can't ask anybody to don't join to our competitor or something. But there has to be some protection for us also.
So, Vishwesh, this is a very a practical question, and it does happen all the time. So, let's see how the law looks at it. So, the law very categorically says, as you also already have said, that you can't restrict a person from leaving. So, you can't stop him. Whatever skills he has gained while working for you, you can't take it away from him.
Right.
So, he's going to go with a skill set. What you can stop him to do is to use the trade secret, that even if it has it in a physical form in terms of data, or a trade secret which he should not be able to replicate.
Okay.
But that is at a very concept level, because it's very difficult to prove that this was my trade secret, because an idea is not protectable.
Absolutely.
So unless and until that person is not going, you can't show that he's walked away with hard data, there is no protection. This is a risk all businesses have to take, because you cannot contracts of personal service are not specifically enforceable.
Right.
Now what you can further do is, if you have the business has spent specifically for training, so maybe for skilling up, you have sent that person to some skills course, or he has gone abroad for a certain specific training and you have incurred cost, all that cost can be recovered through a training bond. Okay. Which you can ask the person to sign before the business decides to spend on training for him. But that is very specific, and you can only recover those costs which have been spent on him for upskilling and nothing else.
Okay.
So if the business at any point of time has evidence that one of your ex-employees has walked away with data which has been valuable for the company, as I said, maybe some formula, specific product details which have been developed for a specific customer database, which is again unique in nature, because every customer you have tried to include it in a database with a certain unique characteristic attached to the customer, which only you know. Otherwise, customers' database is available in the market,
in public domain.
But you know some speciality of the customer because you have worked for it. That becomes unique data. So if somebody is going to exploit that data by joining a competitor, there definitely is a legal recourse. One, you can file for a criminal case of data theft.
Okay.
You can file a civil case for data theft, seeking for compensation, injunction, so that data cannot be used further. So all those legal remedies are in place.
If like a customer, if he approach the same customer with offering lower price,
if you are
just
able
immediately after joining,
but
then
if you are able to show that this has been done because the data was copied, not because that data was in that person's head, that you cannot do, because it's otherwise anti-competitive.
Yeah.
And that will not be allowed.
That one.
Competition has to be healthy. So if there is a lower quotation going because of some other information available to the employee, unless and until you are able to show that it is based on a data set that was copied, you can't stop that.
Okay. So what kind of practical steps we can take in time to time to protect the data, as well as to protect the trade secrets in the company? What kind of audits we have to do, or is there any tools are available?
So even as I earlier said, what kind of data is very important to identify. It also includes personal data. So now we have a new legislation called the Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which makes it mandatory on all organizations who have personal data. And what is personal data? Data of a person. with
Right.
you, that has to be protected and used in a particular manner. So again, going back to what can be done for protection, one is have a proper cybersecurity posture in place, have adequate security features for all the IT infrastructure that you have. It could be hardware, software. Have regular audits in terms of IT infrastructure, also in terms of software license management, because sometimes overuse of software also becomes a problem in most of the organizations. Have very clearly documented policies for access, for data protection, what employees can do, what they cannot do. Have adequate encryption in place. Obviously, you are going to need expert help or in-house IT help for that. But those are those 4-5 steps that you can take.
And what kind of audit points has to be done? Like, is there any checklist available that these 4 things you have to do?
So as I said, Certain has come out with a mandate. Do have a look at it. It talks about 15 cybersecurity controls, right from, as I said, infrastructure, access management. Then there is password policy. There is endpoint security management. There is email policy or email access management, incident management, how to take data backups, and retention, encryption. All that has been mentioned in 15 very clear points.
Okay, where we can get that?
You can get it on the Certain website, CERT/IN.
CERT
slash
dot
CERT-IN.
-IN.
So it is Computer Emergency Response Team India. It is their website, which is a Government of India website.
Okay.
And you will find one direction which has been given on 1st September for SMEs on cybersecurity.
Okay.
That would be a very, very useful resource.
In many companies, we have both the employees, and basically this episode we are releasing in Navratri, so we'll take that point as a what is the POSH guidelines, and what a company should take it in a positive way, because many people are saying POSH यार वो बहुत उसके लिए compliances है ये, but many companies, हमारे बहुत सारे companies में एक तो लेडी ऑफिसर रहती है, and many times एक ही रहती है पूरे फैक्ट्री में, who is handling the admin and accounts work. So what kind of precautions we have to take?
Okay, so the POSH Act, which was an act for protection of women from sexual harassment at workplace, was enacted in the year 2013. The intention behind the act is to protect women from all forms of sexual harassment at workplace. Only women. So there is no law which is available for men, but the corresponding law can be the internal disciplinary guidelines, and even if a man suffers from sexual harassment at workplace, he can definitely complain. So that comfort I also want to say when I'm talking, because anybody can be vulnerable at workplace. So it's not that a man will not have justice and it's only the woman, but the law is meant for women. Now, which are the companies who need to follow it? Any company having more than 10 employees, any legal entity having more than 10 employees.
Okay.
The law doesn't say 10 employees which include women. So let's say there's a company with 10 male employees. Even that company needs to adhere to POSH.
Okay.
Now, how do you do it? And why do you do it? Because you may have a female visitor who suffers from sexual harassment from one of those 10 employees. So you should have an internal mechanism in place. The intention behind POSH was that an internal mechanism is important because women are not very comfortable in reporting these things outside to the police.
Right.
So have a comfortable internal procedure in place where she feels confident that she can go and report and there will not be any retaliation. So that's the intention. And I sometimes feel if organizations do it with the right intent, then the compliances are not difficult.
Okay.
Why do you find the compliances difficult? Because you don't believe in the legislation. अरे ये क्यों चाहिए, ये क्यों आया है, अरे अभी और एक हेडेक हो गया, कि है ही नहीं फीमेल एम्प्लॉयज़ हमारे यहाँ. सो यू लुक एट, इफ़ यू लुक एट इट एज oh, you know, I have, it's forcefully done, then it won't be easy. But if you really understand that it is difficult for women to work in male dominated environments, historically also women always have suffered. There have been lack of opportunities. There has been a lot of culturally women are looked at as incompetent as compared to men. So there has been a lot of gender discrimination and also sexual harassment, because predatory behavior, whether you like to hear it or not, is very, very common in male dominated environments. When I say predatory behavior, it is also some sort of an entitled behavior, meaning that I know more than her because I am a man.
Okay.
Is a mindset that is very common. Very difficult also to accept, but talk to any woman and she will most of the times will say, yes, I have suffered this because the manager or my colleague thinks he knows more because he's a man and I'm a woman. And it gets demonstrated in a lot of ways in terms of behavior. So once you understand that it is important to make your female employees feel safe, then that, oh, I have to do it compulsory, that feeling goes away. And as I said, it comes naturally. The internal mechanism is where the inquiry is done internally with the internal complaints committee. So what are the mandatory compliances? One, you should have a POSH policy. You should have an internal complaints committee on which you should have an external member. Why external? So that the external member ensures that the entire inquiry happens in a just and a fair manner and company politics don't come in. No person from the management should be on that committee.
Okay.
Because the recommendation goes to the management and the management cannot interfere in it. So the inquiry committee is a completely independent body within the organization, made up by people from the organization. A very unique concept, but it's working very fine. So policy, internal complaints committee, trainings for the committee to understand, trainings for the board to understand the requirement, and the trainings to the employee to understand that this has been set up for their benefit.
So in SME, there are not much manpower is there. So how we can set down this committee or something, internal committee? How many members or people require?
So minimum 4.
4.
Minimum 4 members have to be, out of which one is an external member. So
Okay.
3 people from the organization. So even let's say if you're an organization of 10 people, out of which 3 will be part of the committee
Okay.
and 1 will be from outside.
So only committee we have to form
Yes.
first. That is the
Policy-
main requirement.
Policy, committee, training and an annual return that
Oh.
goes to the local body.
Okay. So that is also, there is also registration is required for
Yes,
10
there
plus
is.
employee company.
Yes, there is a registration that will be required.
Oh,
There will be an audit also, and there has to be a self-declaration also that there is a compliance. And there is now a mandatory registration on what we call as the She-Box portal. So there has to be an online mandatory registration that happens.
what is your advice for the SMEs or entrepreneurs in terms of key legal must do things for SMEs? Common mistakes people do as you are facing many cases. So and for women entrepreneurs, specific any suggestions or something?
So let's first talk about, let's say, 5 things all SMEs
Okay.
must do so that they are They are on the right side of law. First is governance structure and all the compliances that come along with the governance, registration, licensing, etc. Second is taxation, all forms of different taxation, and filing returns on time is a must. Because there are also criminal liabilities otherwise associated with it. The third is employee management and labor law compliance. So once we look at governance, then we look at taxation, then we look at all our people management and labor law compliance, which will include POSH. I'm including POSH in this itself. The fourth is your IT governance, that all your IT infrastructure has to be in place and all of that. And last, I think not the least, is when we look at all the documentation, all contracts have to be in place. So across all the earlier 4 verticals also, contracts in terms of your governance structure, contracts in employee management, labor law compliance, contracts when it comes to IT, contracts in terms
with
of your
suppliers,
regulator. Yes, with your all your contracts, because there's a third party liability. So contract management and documentation perhaps is quite an ignored area, and people don't give enough importance to it. That document becomes very important when there is a dispute. So it's better to look at that document right in the beginning. So I think these 5 things the SMEs need to look at. One more I would like to add, because that is now the future trend. You will look at all the regulators and the laws moving towards a trend of transparency and accountability in governance and management. So how transparent are your procedures and policies will take you a long way. And how inclusive you are in growth. In terms of gender inclusivity, inclusivity in terms of disabilities. So inclusivity in as a principle, what is your company's posture is going to take you a long way.
And common mistakes.
So I think this is it's sort of related, right? Because the mistakes are, that you're not procuring licensed software. The mistakes are that the infrastructure is not secure. The mistake is the document is not in place. Rent agreements, people say, I'll do a rent agreement, but I'll not register it. So cutting corners is a mistake. So anything that you feel, मैं आधा ही करूँगा, then the rest is a risk. जो आधा आप नहीं कर रहे हो is a business risk. And that business risk then you have to assess. शायद आप unlicensed software लेके you are maybe saving 50,000 rupees, but the risk associated with it is maybe 5 lakhs. So that is something that you need to look into in terms of managing the business.
Any advice for women entrepreneurship?
So I think for women face a lot of challenges in their career at different stages. Right in the beginning, they're freshers, fresh management graduates, but they are unable to look for a good job of their choice because they are thinking, I'm going to get married and I'm going to shift to a city where my husband lives. So her career decisions are not completely hers. That is number one. Then second, she goes into a family, then they want to start a family. That's a second break that she takes or she's expected to take. The third is aging parents, aging in-laws. So that's another career break that she would have to look at. Also, I'm sure things have changed and they're not the same the way it was maybe in my generation. And for the younger women, maybe it's slightly better than what it was before. That now it is, I've heard my young friends say now, like, we are pregnant. So which means like they do both want to own it. But I think the way they say we are pregnant, I hope they also say like it's our work together in terms of housework. So if that happens, well and good, then both their career paths are going to be in the same manner. But if not, consistency is important. I always tell my young friends that if you leave the job, everybody is going to be happy about it because you are going to be available for the others. So nobody is really going to root for your career other than yourself.
Right.
So very important that you do that. Very important that unashamedly you guard your own money and your own finances. And there's nothing wrong in it if you're earning and if you're going to protect your money. There's nothing wrong in it. If you're not earning and if you're demanding for an equal share in your husband's money, nothing wrong in it, because you have chosen to be at home as a joint choice, right? That somebody earns and somebody looks after the home. Then that lady needs to be adequately protected with the money that comes from her husband. Now, why am I saying this? Because women have been taught to be ashamed about asking for it. Nothing to be ashamed about, because if something goes wrong, she's the one who has to fight for maintenance. So be very confident about your worth. Be very confident about your worth outside in terms of your career and your business. Yes, family is equally important and that balance is equally important, but that entire responsibility should not be only on the woman's shoulder. The family balance rests on both the spouses, the man and the woman. And if it's a shared responsibility, nothing like it.
At the end of the podcast, any tip or any one-liner for the SMEs?
Ideally, I would want to say go to a lawyer. Okay, well, I think as a last tip, I would like to say that there are no shortcuts and there are no free meals. Okay. The moment you take a shortcut and you think you are getting something for free, there is a much higher price that you are going to pay later.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishwesh.
Yes.